Well, hello, boys and girls.
Hi.
What a wonderful day it is today in our money-based economy. Well, sit back and relax and get ready for the guy who's about to ruin everything.
I'm puzzled. Are you really seriously suggesting that Jesus Christ was a mushroom?
Wayne, Jesus was a mushroom Roberts.
Yes. You are dealing with a secret cult, a secret society.
Welcome to Waning Interest.
Welcome to the Waning Interest Podcast, hour number 21. Unlocked Wednesday. Here we go today. I could have been better. This Unlocked Wednesday brought to you kind of by Dimebag Flour Space Ace Hybrid. Not an ad, just saying. Get ready for the Wednesday joke and the radio story. Wednesdays are joke and radio story day. The jokes come from way back in the day. I'm talking 5 whole years ago. Right now I'm pulling from the first batch of garbage that I wrote for my first open mic. And I've mentioned before that I went to many open mics before I actually got up. I just went and watched a bunch of times before I finally went, okay, you pussy. No offense to the females. Using it in a different slang. I was a wuss. And then I think it was starting to eat from when I started to eat hemp seed. When I put hemp seed into my diet, I grew a pair of nads for real. Not just those little ones that help produce my daughter, but I mean, gonads, as they'd say. They go. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what you're doing. You step on stage in front of all those people, or no one at all, and you got to go. Not only do you have to have, it's not just so much about, it's having, to me, I don't know shit. I'm a Padawan. And I'll probably, if 20 years from now, I'll still call myself a Padawan. Most likely. Especially if I'm still doing the same jokes. I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? Some people get lazy. I could be one. But the balls thing, a lot of people say that to me when it comes out that I've done it or that I do it, and oh my God, you have to have such balls. That's the thing. And I used to say the same thing. Yeah, I can't do that. You got to have balls. I don't have the balls. It's always about balls, man, even with the women. But then after you do it a bunch, it's still tough. I'm not saying it's easy, but just like anything else, once you do it a bunch of times, you get a little more comfortable. Then it's not so much about balls. It's just about being comfortable and being yourself and letting the free flow funny fall. Holy shit. Right, mark the tape, 4 minutes. Whoa, what was that? That's good. That's got to be some promo material, you think? I don't know. We'll see later. Anyway, point is, I don't know shit, but that's kind of more what I've seen in the 5 years that I've done stand-up. And it's sort of the same thing in a way different way. Much easier way, like in radio or voiceover or theater or acting for the camera. It's just like anything. You're really, really nervous at first. Wow, why does my belly do this only when I'm recording? I don't hear this shit in my throat at any time until I hit record. But like anything else, the first few times are scary and hairy and whoa. But as you get more comfortable, but there's big differences in all these, of course, but they all have a certain theme. It always starts a little tough, a lot tougher. And then, of course, tough times can come along again, fall off the tracks. Don't know where you're going no mo. You know, shit happens. What in the hell are you talking about? I have no idea, but I'm just trying to get to the end. But balls. It's all about, it was about balls, right? Yeah, balls. Wow, I made it back. Thank you, Dimebag Flower Space Ace Hybrid. Thank you. Cling. But yeah, it's still about balls. Every time you're getting up there, it's slightly about balls. But the balls is, I guess what I'm saying is that, when you're, when it's your first year, yeah, you're still thinking that. But when you still want to say that to somebody who's been doing it 10 years because, of course, they've been doing it 10 years. They got the balls, of course. So, of course, it takes balls. So, it's, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I just wanted to talk about balls. I trimmed mine today, by the way. All the pubes. Think I lost 2 pounds. But it wasn't so much about the pubes. It was I also went ahead and said, hey, I've got this buzzer out with the, it's right there. And why not go for that little bit of chest hair and the nipple hair too and trim that shit. And that's when the other half pound came off. Did I tell you it's Wednesday joke day and radio story day? So yeah, the jokes, Wednesday joke day, yeah. Old shit. Old stupid shit. Not that my new stuff isn't stupid shit. But the way back. And then also I tell some kind of fun radio story from my, I hesitate to call it a career. I think if I were to call it a career, I would have made a hell of a lot more money, don't? Yeah. The numbers just don't line up with that title. So I like to keep it simple to my days in radio, even though there were many. And a lot of them were really long. So my days in radio. There's a bunch of good stories. Man, I just saying that, I thought of a couple more. And that's does have the biggest list out of, because on Mondays I do a couple of things. It's a bowling story, I think, and an acting story, I believe. Not, hey, look at me acting, just something wacky behind the scenes usually, something weird and wacky. Then Wednesdays is joke and radio story day, and then Friday is album of the week, psychedelic movie /series, and VO story, or maybe Monday's VO story, and bowling stories are Friday. I don't know. I get this stuff mixed up. I mean, I'm doing 3 hours. Wow, a week. That's a lot of stuff, man. I don't know how you think that I'm going to be able to keep track of all this shit. How about a notepad, asshole? You're right. Done. And I do have my bullet points in front of me and my email thing. That's the simplest thing. I mean, almost, if you're, remember how, you used to use Word and shit, and there are still other, there are applications to use or whatever, but like something Word, you're going to write something in, like a script or like notes for jokes or whatever. I don't bother with that anymore. For years now, I just, not that I'm a genius, but I realized, wait, how do I cut out some steps and really make sure that I'm not going to lose my shit, that I can't lose it. I don't have to worry about some backup bullshit. I just do drafts in my email. You can pull up my email anywhere if something crashes. So I always have my drafts, and then you can shoot from the email, shoot whatever, if you need to get it off to somebody. I put everything like in my paperwork. So I don't have paperwork anymore. So I'm such a minimalist. I take any paperwork that I do need to keep, and I scan it into my computer and email it to myself and have it in a folder. All my paperwork shit. And then I can throw the paper away, and I don't have to have a bunch of paper pile up and blah, blah, blah. When I need to find it, I can easily find it in my paperwork folder. I'm such a neat little bastard. It's me trying to be Anthony Monk. You'll never do it. I know. But I do have some of his traits. What the hell is he talking about? I don't know. Thanks. At least you could have kept track. Fuck, man, can't you help me? You're standing over my fucking shoulder, asshole. Yeah, don't say anything. I wouldn't either. Hey, did I tell you that guy on the open, this is the first time you're ever listening to the Waning Interest podcast, and that you don't hear any ads? That wasn't an ad at the front. Dimebag's not an ad. I'm just letting you know because I'm a really honest person, that's all, okay? Mm-hmm. The guy in the front, Mr. Joe Cruz. He's who you hear there in the open, and he's who you hear on the front and the back of the promos. CruzVO.com. His link should be right there in any description that you're listening from, I would hope. WaningInterestPodcast@gmail.com. It's always better to give out the email being sexy than you end up with more butt pics. The hairier, the better. You're funny. I know. So you're probably listening on iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube or TuneIn or Google Play, Laughable, maybe Spotify. Still to this day, don't fucking have a clue. Or any of the offshoots, Overcast, and there's a bunch of other stuff that apparently just iTunes just shoots it right to, so they can go and have ads and use free content, throw ads on it. I don't do ads. That's why I do Patreon. Monday is Patreon hour. Wednesday is a Patreon hour, but also unlocked, and that's where you'll hear where I put those. So that's where the Wednesday hour is up on all those, where you're listening right now, most likely, if you're not listening on Patreon. And the Friday is Patreon only as well. And then here and there, I'll do bonus hours as I go along. As little as $2 a month. $24 a year. You could be a whip, part of the Waning Interest Podcast pack. And you can get everything right there that's on Patreon. You can get it all, not just today, the Wednesday hour, the Unlocked Wednesday. You can get them all. You know what I'm saying? And soon, hopefully, I'll be having, I don't know, most likely start with T-shirts. But do need some swag. But not sure. Most likely going to start with T-shirts, but we'll have some other stuff coming up as we go. Need more patrons. Got to pay the Libsyn bill, which is how this is able to go on to iTunes and all those other places. Electric bill being paid would be nice. Rent. Yeah. Phone. Those are my only bills. Well, the ones that I pay attention to. Podcasts, like I was saying, by the way, great segue, I know, are like items at Goodwill. You know, so free shit sold for profit. Same thing with podcasts. So that's why we do the Patreon, because I am about the people's power. Messing with my peebles. Something my dad used to say. And I'm not sure exactly where he got it, and I'm afraid to ask. Word of mouth, people's power. Want to be supported just by the people who are listeners, who are lovers, who are likers, who are lickers. Did I tell you we're just making this up as we go? Twitter and Instagram, Wayne Roberts 811. I just went up on, just opened the Instagram account. It's not even been 48 hours. I've put some promos up. One promo for the podcast, and then the promos for the show at the Dojo of Comedy atop the Sycamore Tavern on Sunset Boulevard, where I put together a show called The Art of Shredding. It's a little wink to Pantera. And shredding comedians who I see all the time rip the cover off of rooms. Or how about roof? Makes more sense. I know. That's why I changed it. Thank you. You're welcome. Got it. Erica Rhodes, Sam Tripoli, Felicia Michaels, Jimmy Schubert, all touring headliners. For $10, you're going to get to see all four of them and me hosting. And a few other names I might squeeze in the middle in there. I'm hoping for a couple, or at least the one. There's one that I really want, and there's one that might be doing it as well, but I'm not quite sure yet. And then Trevor from the Dojo will start things off, attempt a few punchlines, and then I'm just goofing on him because he would goof on me. But he's not here to defend himself, so I'm just goofing, like I said. He's going to have some thump, kicking shit off. He runs the dojo. And along with Sam, and we're going to have a kick-ass time. So the link should be right there in the description. The Eventbrite link. Only $10. And hear about this, man. This is the best part. Free parking at the Sycamore Tavern. Is that a winner? Or what? That is equivalent to me just selling you a Lamborghini on a $75,000 salary. That's right. I think you're off. I think you're right too. I was trying, but it was all right on the fly. Hey, I've listened to a lot of fucking podcasts. I've listened to a lot of fucking radio. And that was a pretty bad 18 minutes and 48 seconds I just gave you. Nah, it's not that bad. Is everybody going to like it? No. Is everybody going to love it? Yes. You know what's weird on Twitter? I put out the promos, the video promos that I did for Erica, Sam, Felicia, and Jimmy. Twitter is so weird. They get retweeted, but they don't get many likes, but they've got so many views. Like I see somebody else's, I see a video of something else that has 600 views. It has 50 likes. This stuff, we got 400 views, 1 like. 550 views, 12 likes. 500 plus, no likes. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, likes are important, you know. I just find it weird. I'm not crying. I'm just tearing up. It's weird. How can it be seen that many times? And, because it's good shit. They're all really they're fucking funny promos. They're all a minute. Well, Sam's is a little bit longer. I have to figure out how to shave it so I can get it to a minute. I gotta actually do a little more editing on his, because I gotta have him a minute. I found out. They all used to be longer, but I've gotten them all down to fit them on Instagram, because they only allow me a minute for some reason. Maybe because I'm new. I don't know, but I thought Instagram videos were longer, but like I said, I guess not. I didn't know, and I'm learning as I go. I'm doing my best as this is, and I think I've put up quality content so far in the less than 48 hours I've been on the gram. Maybe you'll see and agree, or maybe you'll hear this 2 years from now and go, dude, you still don't even have 100 followers? That's my guess. That's where I'm putting my money. And at the moment, I think I have almost $5. Either way, I'm never going to figure out fucking social media, and I think it's because I'm old. And I think it'll all be better once we get rid of money, but I've said that before, and you probably don't want to hear it, do you? No, I don't. Well, I'm going to tell you anyway, because you know what I'm sick of fucking seeing? You know what I want to get rid of, and I think we all want to get rid of? I think we all want to get rid of fucking homeless people and shit like that. I've got every night outside my window in the alley. The back of my building is back to the back of a Big Five Sporting Goods, the loading bay, and the dumpster, their dumpster. It's a great fucking view I have. It's not so bad on Sundays with the farmer's market on the street in front of the Big Five because of the smell. And it's just much nicer. The only good thing about Sundays, really, except for a good TV show, which at the moment I don't know if we have because Barry's done. But anyway, I see a lot of homeless activity right there. And there's one guy who I don't even know if he's on drugs. I don't know what's going on. I saw some people a lady pick him up once in a car, and I know he knew those people because he was talking to the dog. He knew the dog knew him. But a couple nights, at least 3 nights a week, he sleeps on that loading bay. And what he does is he takes their boxes after they empty about, take their inventory and, throw it on the shelves or whatever and take it out of the boxes. They put all their cardboard outside for cardboard collectors to come and get. Well, if they haven't come and gotten it, it's usually Thursdays, he'll take the boxes, whatever they leave out there, and he'll box them back up and build a fort on the loading bay. And there's a pallet, and he lays on the pallet, and he basically makes a tall wall of boxes to keep the wind out or whatever. Make a little fort, and that's where he sleeps. And security tells him to. He keeps coming back. And the weird thing is, every other time he unboxes the cardboard and unfolds it. I mean, breaks it back down and piles it back up neatly on the stairs where they normally do it. Every other time. And sometimes he'll leave it all up. It seems like every other time, and it's got its funnies about it because of just the quirkiness that, when you observe something and you see all these different things. But of course it's sad. And I don't know what the deal is. He seems very healthy. I don't know He seems somewhat healthy. He definitely has high blood pressure. I could just tell from his, it seems that with his skin. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be drinking. He doesn't seem to be fucked up ever. But I'm tired of seeing it, and I think you all are too. And one of the ways we got to get out of that is UBI, which is one of the ways to get rid of money. And I know it sounds silly to get rid of money because that's the true religion of the world. But that's actually what creates all the shit that we're trying to get rid of, and we try to get rid of it with money, not just make ourselves happy with money, and that doesn't work. But we're also, the same thing that doesn't work is trying to fix everything with money, because in the end, because it's about money, there's always going to be a way for it to crash and be shitty. And the system ain't broken. It's quote unquote fixed. Which is why we're still talking about these simple, basic things in 2019, and it's really fucking ridiculous, and it needs to stop. And that way the homeless stops, and the hungry stops. We live in a world of abundance, but we're still going with the scarcity brain mindset. We have the tech to make incredible abundance, so nobody would need to steal because everything would be available because it would be so abundant, and there would be no need to buy it. Well, what are people going to do, Wayne? Well, tech will do a lot of the mundane jobs, so that will make us free to live our fucking lives and not be worker bees, because we don't need to be, because that's what tech is for. And the people that say, well, that won't work, well, what do you mean? Then get rid of your vehicle, get rid of your watch, get rid of all your tech, because you're using tech right now, and it's evolved better than it was, so... And it's made to break down, so they'll sell you more because it's still about money and fucking you. So if it's not about money, then it'll be made to its best quality, so it won't be the what's it called? Planned obsolescence? No, wait. Is that the right quote? No. It won't be. They make them shitty on purpose, and we won't have come on. I can't believe everybody put up with the whole thing with the iPad. They already had the iPhone, which had a camera in it, and then they come out with the first iPad, and they don't put a fucking camera in it, and everybody buys it. And then they put the next one out with a camera when they could have put the first one out with a camera. That was one of the most ridiculous, scummiest fucking business things you ever saw. And nobody said a fucking word that I remember. Nobody seemed to care. Whatever, Wayne, come on, look. Whatever. No, I've never had one. Never had an iPad. I had a girlfriend once that won one at a party, at some raffle or something, and she didn't even care to use it, and it sat there for a while. She probably uses it now, I guess, or did. She probably went on to, but it's kind of funny. Sorry, a little tangent. Did I ever tell you I was a boring fuck? Well, I just proved it. Yeah, you're great. How about it's time for the Wednesday joke? Son of a bitch. I guess I just had a feeling that I was going to be really boring. So I decided to put down 2 pieces of shit that I wrote 5 years ago for my first open mic. And it's been a while since I've seen these, so I kind of have to read them, because I wasn't going to go memorizing them again, because that's just, no. Anyway, I very rarely drink anymore, and if I do, it's a shot of vodka that I sip for an hour with a water. And one of the things I miss about heavy drinking is the hangover orgasm. So intense. Especially when I was actually with someone. Thank you. That reminds me, I have to go call my Nana. even though she's dead. What that fucking means at the end, I don't know, but at the time, I thought that would be a funny tag. Didn't say it was. This is... I never even called my grandmother Nana anyway. But that's how I wrote it. I think I might have said it. I think I might have used it this third. I think I might have said that one like the third open mic I did. God, that was stupid. That was Wednesday joke A. I might have to re-record this shit. I'm really hoping when I listen back that, ended up sounding way better than I thought. God. Pray for me, pray for me, pray to Jesus, pray to the mushroom. All right, Wednesday joke B. My first love was a dental assistant. Met her when I was getting a root canal, if I can say that. Doc said he was going to give me Tylenol 3 for the pain and walked out of the room. She came in, took my hand, looked at me with those turquoise, bloodshot eyes in those perfectly fitting scrubs, tattooed eyebrows, and I swear there was vodka on her breath. Then she said those magic words. Tell him Tylenol doesn't work and he'll give you a script for Vicodin. It was kismet. We broke up while we were in Narcotics Anonymous. Both kept making new contacts and went our separate ways. And that was the Wednesday joke B. Because I did two. Jesus. That was a longin'. What about the joke? Huh. It was a little bit funnier than I thought. I guess it wasn't so bad. Now that joke is a joke, but it's based on a true story, which was 1997, right? Yes, 1997, root canal. And the first time that I had Vicodin. And that was the reason. She really said that. The guys on the show that I was the radio show that I was part of, at the time I told them that I was going to have a root canal, and somebody said something about Vicodin or Percocet. And I had never had either at the time. So, and one of them I think said that, you're definitely, root canal? Oh yeah, they're definitely give you a Vicodin or Percocet. They said one or the other. So when he really did say Tylenol 3, I did kind of make a face of disappointment, even though I didn't know what I was disappointed in. And she saw it as he left the room, and she really did say that to me. She didn't have vodka on her breath, but she did look like she was. The reason I describe her in that way is obviously she was sexy, but she was also looked like she'd done some partying. A dental assistant who had rocked some nights. And then what came out of her mouth to me sealed that. But that was actually the one and only time I saw her. We never dated, nothing like that, nothing. I might have seen her on the follow-up. I don't recall, or she might not have been there. That's the only time I remember seeing her. I mean, shit, we're talking 20 years ago, right? 97? Or, yeah, 20 years ago? So that's what that's based on. Didn't make it up. Most of my jokes are based on, if not a full, not if not the real story, or based on something that had actually happened. There was some things early on that I wrote that just made up totally. That I learned that a lot of people just, don't make it up. If it's not truth, you want some. There has to be some truth in it, or it's. So it can't doesn't really work. Some people can make it work, but most of the time, one of the rule is just go by shit that really, try to go by shit that really did happen to you that's got some truth in it, because the truth is what's funny, and that's what everybody's looking for. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think they know what you're saying. Okay. Alrighty then, should we move on? Did I ever tell you Jesus was a mushroom? That was actually, my first actual showcase / show at the Improv in Hollywood. I actually said that line, and it worked. Just a non sequitur, just out of nowhere, just right between jokes. I ever tell you Jesus was a mushroom? We'll get back to that. It worked. And it worked less and less the more I did it. I only did it used it a handful of times until I actually built a few Jesus mushroom bits, jokes, whatever you want to call it, say it. You know what I mean? But like I mentioned money earlier, I've said this in a previous hour, I find it really weird that as many times as I've said Jesus was a mushroom on stage, no one has ever gotten mad. I've never gotten it, and nobody's ever gotten mad at me. At least not verbally, not told me. Maybe they did. I didn't. I have no knowledge of anybody getting mad at me. 9 times out of 10, I talk about a world without money. People fucking flip out. So what is the true religion? Now, if you want to split hairs and be the thinker that I like, you'd go, well, the Jesus wouldn't, because of their belief in Jesus, it makes them not be mad at you for saying those words. And I can see that angle, even though that's not what it is. Because he wasn't well, okay, no, let's go ahead and split that one. Yeah, I'll go with you. A mushroom could forgive me. If I can forgive a mushroom, then why can't a mushroom forgive me? Because everything's connected anyway, right? It is, especially through mushrooms, because we're part fungus. Ask Paul Stamets, mycologist. Ask Dennis McKenna. He's got a whole bunch of other degrees, even though, whatever. I don't care about degrees, but dude's been studying this shit a while, and Dennis McKenna knows what he's talking about when it comes to mushrooms. Not just the psychedelic ones, even though he's not quite the Paul Stamets mycologist that knows. They named a character in Star Trek Discovery, the Star Trek show with Sonya, the lady from Walking Dead. In that show is a character named after Paul Stamets. And there is a spore. What, the hyperdrive it's something having to do with spores, right? And the character is played by Anthony Rapp. Anthony Rapp was in Dazed and Confused. He was the dorky guy with the glasses that hung out with Adam Goldberg and the redheaded girl. And before that, he said when he was 15 that Kevin Spacey hit on him and did all that stuff, and that's what went when he's the one that helped Spacey's career go bye-bye. Kevin Spacey, I'm talking about. That was Anthony Rapp. He's now on Star Trek Discovery playing Dr. Paul Stamets. Now, if you listen to Stamets or do any basic studying of fungus, of mushrooms, psychedelic and otherwise, and the mycelium network underground that feeds the trees and feeds other things that we just think the dirt and the trees, but we don't think of the almost like an internet. There's an internet up here and there's an internet underneath us. Like the biggest living organism is a mushroom. It's the honey mushroom in Oregon. It goes on for acres. But you can't, but most of it, a lot of it is underground. So when you look up this stuff, it's fascinating. And it's not just that Jesus was a mushroom, it's that when you take psychedelics, not take them, when you take the studying of psychedelics, if you read up on psychedelics and the effects, the good effects, and the things that you see, and you put that up against religious text, right there, without even doing psychedelics on your own, you can sort of see how they're connected. Like in all religion, all gods are based on the natural psychedelics of the planet to me. Most of the gods. And like with Hindus and the cows and blue and hermaphrodite. Because the mushroom, to me and others, explains the virgin birth. Mushrooms are spores, they don't need any seed. Born in a manger, maybe in a pile of cow dung. Now, this is not to say, and then it goes on and on, there's a whole bunch of stuff, I've gone over it in previous hours and whatever, but the point is, this is not to insult anybody, but it's what they did everywhere. It's part of the code. Basically, it's kind of like Samwell. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, Sam would understand this because he would have the knowledge, because he was one of those people, because of the way he liked that stuff, and they allowed him to go into where they had all those books and all that knowledge, and that's how he found out the things that he found out that helped the story go along. But back in the day, they had mystery schools where they would teach a lot of this stuff to people. There were only certain people that were allowed to know, and there were levels. So it seems really weird, of course. I know how wacky it sounds because when it was first presented to me, I said, get the fuck out of here. But then I looked, and it's part of the rabbit hole, because psychedelics are a whole thing, because it also explains where when somebody's tripping balls, they sound like Jesus. One of the things, if you read Bing, on Bing you put in what does psychedelics show you, and it talks about how it's a threat to. It shows you that spirituality is about not having things and getting rid of stuff more, and just not wanting anything, and that it's a threat to capitalism. Now, what was one of the last things Jesus did before they threw him on the cross? Didn't he flip over the money changer's table in the quote-unquote story? Flipped over the money changer's table because they were ripping people off with capitalism. Fractional reserve banking. And we continue it. So basically the age of Jesus is the age of fractional reserve banking, because people waking up to this fractional reserve banking thanks to the internet not just above, but also below, because of psychedelics, the more and more people are waking up, because also the world is so fucked because it's all about ego, and the ego, capitalism pushes ego. Now, Jesus was about getting rid of ego, and other gods, they're about getting rid of ego. When you're tripping balls, you can experience ego death. So the reason the world is all fucked up is because it's capitalism, and we're away from our true religion, which is the natural psychedelic of the region, or now at this point, the psychedelic of that religion. For some, of course, Native Americans, it's peyote. Some, it's mushrooms. And then there's ayahuasca. And there's iboga. There's DMT. I mean, the shit from a toad. Which basically makes it puts you on Titan, sitting there with Thanos in space for some people. I mean, it's a little bit different for a lot of people, but for one thing, you're in another dimension. And there's different types of the DMT. Now there's some other new there's DFT, or there's a couple other things that I've just come across learning about, and apparently mostly the same and last longer, but not as potent. I don't know. Do your own research. That's the whole point. But when you're tripping balls, all that Jesus stuff makes more and more sense. And the love and the feeling, the connected. So then then you feel the internet through you, through the mushroom. If that makes any sense. Because like I say at the end of every hour, remember, we're all Neo. We're all Neo. Like in every hero story, it's all of us are that actual person just going through this. It's just a different trail, but we're all on a hero's journey. So we're all Neo, a.k.a. one. Rearrange the letters of Neo, and it's one. It's like the Bill Hicks line. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather. Great Bill Hicks bit about wanting to see a positive drug story on the news. Wouldn't it be nice just once? But when you get into that stuff and you equate it to religious text, the good parts, not the bad parts, not the nasty parts, because I don't know anybody that gets violent and nasty that when tripping. They get just the opposite. Very loving and very connected. And if they're not used to it and they've done too much, or they're not in a grid-safe setting or whatever, they might have a little troubling trip with the come-up. But once you get to the peak, everything should be okay. But always do your homework. Respect the psychedelic, and it will respect you. Don't do it when you're angry. I mean, it's tough because sometimes you want to do it to help to get things better and clear your mind and get rid of depression, of course. But if you're doing it for that, then study more and more and make sure you don't, and never do it alone. Unless you are somebody who has been doing it alone for a while and you know what you're doing, you do it every once in a while, whatever. I'm not telling you what to do, but anybody who's never done it or has only done it a couple times, way more about harm reduction than jumping in without knowing how to swim. Luckily, my own experience, I kind of It was like with the pool, being a pussy in the pool. Like, just my foot first, and I'll sit there for 5 minutes with it up to my ankles, and then up to my knees for another 5 minutes. And then, oh my God, that is really cold on the back of my balls and the head of my penis. And then getting used to that, and then, to the belly button. You know what I'm saying? I guess it was a good thing, but that's how I kind of did the psychedelic thing. Just a little bit more every time I did it. Even though there was one time where I did go a little crazy, but that was because I had so much alcohol in me. But luckily, everything turned out okay. Even though when the psychedelic wore off, wow, felt like I hit a brick wall with the booze. Did I ever tell you Jesus was a mushroom? Anyway, it's time to move on. It's 51 after, and it's time for the Wednesday radio story. The Wednesday radio story. I hope this one is fun. I had such a blast with this, and I hope I can squeeze in every detail that I can remember. If you don't know Phil Hendry, it was one of the people I got to cut my teeth with, one of the radio hosts that I got to cut my teeth with. He's been syndicated for a long time, but before he was syndicated, he worked in Miami. And I got to be his backup producer, which meant I ran the board, screened the calls, did show prep with him, and then was able to feed lines into his headphones through the talkback button where it wouldn't go out in the air. It would just go in the left side of his headphones where I could just feed him if I thought of something that he wasn't, or let him know that something else, and he could use it. And, one of those couple of lines every once in a while that I got to sneak in and he would use. Oh, it was such a lovely feeling. But other than that, the dude just would rip it up, and it was so good. But this was back in the day before. It was because of Phil, I think, where one of the reasons why the law changed to where we had to tell people when we screened the calls, right before we put them on hold to go on the air, we'd have to tell them, now remember, you're going on the air, and it was something that Phil did, and maybe I'll have to go back to it. But I think it was another wrong number. But before that happened, we would get wrong numbers in the control room on the inside, like the bat phone, we called it. Sometimes that would happen. Or sometimes just the regular line, and it would somehow get screwed up, and somebody thought they'd be calling a bank or somewhere else. And if Phil was on the air, Andy, his normal producer, would get him on, and Phil would pretend he was somebody or whatever. And it was almost always, ended up on a best of CD. Just like this one. I believe Andy had jury duty. So for a whole week, I helped Phil produce his show, and this is in Miami, 1995 probably. And I don't remember the bit that he was doing, but he was in the middle of doing a character thing, and there was a wrong number on the bat phone, and it was a lady named Mrs. Edelman who was calling about her bank account from New York. So I went, oh, please, you've got the wrong number. So I told her to call the listener line so I could put her on the air, and she did. And I told Phil in between, I said, we might have a wrong number in his headphones. I told him while he was on, we might have a wrong number, hold on. So we did. She called that number, and I put her on. And you have to hear it. You somehow dig it up. You might have to be might be on Phil's website. But he starts out with trying to make her First he says that Mr. Gonzalez, and we had a hurricane come through here, and I'm just trying to get to my desk, and my coworkers are under the wall that fell down, and there's a car came right through the window, and then she's just going, oh my God, she thinks this is real, and he's just, oh yeah, and at one point I remember one of his lines is, yeah, I'm gonna have to go now because I think I'm losing consciousness. And then all of a sudden somebody else comes on, and then he does a character, I think maybe Mr. Gonzalez again, still, I think. Yeah, it was. And he's taking her name, and she's trying to spell her name, and because she spells everything, he just realizes Phil just keeps fucking with making her spell everything. And stretching it out. Now she says, I remember at one point she goes, I'm trying to give you my name. E as in Edward, D as in Donald. Phil pops in and goes, Edward, who are these, your children? No, I'm giving you the letters of my name, trying to spell my name. E as in Edward, D as in Donald. And because she had already said it, so she goes to say it again, and this time right as she was going to say it, because I thought I felt it coming, and I hit the talk back, and I go, as in duck. And Phil goes, as in duck. Yes, Mr. Gonzalez. And he just kept doing it and made her spell it over and over again. And then we had to go to a break, and somehow she stayed on the line through the commercial break. The guest thought she was on hold, and the WIOD was what you heard on hold at that bank that she thought she was calling. And then he came back and did another character. I think he did one of the female. I don't know if he did Margaret or whatever, but it's stretched out for 2 fucking segments. So it's almost 20 minutes of material. And just on and and how this woman just continued to stay on the phone and thinking that she really was calling her bank and talking to somebody that was real. Anyway, I searched for it on YouTube, and I'm howling. I was on the floor at one point, my knees. I was like, man, if I produce this show anymore, I have to get knee pads because I continue to fall out of my chair onto my knees. Literally. That's not hyperbole. I remember Al Winters, one of the jocks at the station down the hall, Hot 105. One time he comes in, and just before he was going on the air, and he stopped in to eat a sandwich while Phil was doing, was it a Vic Perel, a radio psychic. Yeah, so Mary, what I see, Mary, in your future, what I see is, I see a giant wrecking ball going right through your living room window. And you on the sidewalk going, what the hell? That's what I see in your future, Mary. That's what I see. You're listening to the Vic Prowl Radio Psychic. Something like that, man. And he just goes on and on for an hour. The phone's lit up. People thought this shit was real. This 6'4" black man is eating a sub, an Italian sub on my left, and laughing so hard. At one point, he starts choking. Luckily, he stood up and it came up, and I didn't have to go try to give him the Heimlich because, I mean, the guy is double my fucking size. But the noise he was making, even when he wasn't choking, fucking sitting in the control room watching Phil Hendry do his fucking shit. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do a little search on the YouTubes. Hendry, IE, if you don't know who I'm talking about. Phil Hendry. I've got some other stories about Phil in the can, waiting for a future Waning Interest podcast, Wednesday radio story. Here on the Waning Interest Productions Network, podcast network. I have no idea what I'm saying because that doesn't exist. But if you're listening in the future, who knows? Maybe it does now. But I hope not. I don't need no fucking network, right? Unless I do a couple different podcasts. Who knows? Maybe I should do a sports podcast. I don't know. Or maybe I should just shut the fuck up. Oh my God, talk about timing. Watch Redacted tonight. Jimmy Dore Show, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, Jesse Ventura, Covert Report. Look for yourself. I'm just here to be a fun babbling lecturer. Remember, we're all Neo, a.k.a. One. And sorry we ran long. Had to bump comedian Annie Letterman. Thanks, Gary. Daddy loves you. Stop looking at me, man.